Good afternoon, everyone. This is Debbie Royce, New York Liberty Development Corporation's Assistant Corporate Secretary. I'd like to welcome everyone to this afternoon's meeting. Before we formally begin, I would ask everyone to please mute your line unless you are speaking. We'll begin today by taking a roll call of the directors to ensure we have a quorum present on the line. Please be so kind as to say present when we call your name. Howard Zemsky.
Present.
Kathleen Mize.
Present.
And Mehul Patel.
Present.
Thanks so much, everyone, for joining today. And Acting Chair Zemsky, you can begin.
Okay, thanks, Debbie. And good afternoon, everyone. I now call to order the meeting of the directors of the New York Liberty Development Corporation for Thursday, December 2nd, 2021. Before we get started, I'll note for the record that I'll be the acting chair for today's meeting and ask everyone to please mute their phones until you're ready to speak. I'd like to note for the record that in accordance with recently passed legislation, this meeting will be conducted by teleconference. And I'll note for the record that the public was given an opportunity to comment on today's agenda by submitting their written comments by 3 p.m. yesterday, and no comments were received from the public. The directors have received the relevant written materials in advance and are free to ask questions at any time. Before we begin with the substantive portion of the meeting, I would like to ask the directors whether anyone has any potential conflict of interest with respect to today's agenda items, and if so, please make an appropriate disclosure on the record at this time. Okay, hearing none, I would now like to ask Matthew Bray to present the first item on today's agenda, which, among other things, requests authorization for the refinancing of the corporation's revenue refunding bonds for the One World Trade Center project. Matthew, take it away.
Thank you, Howard, and good afternoon. Today, we are asking the board to approve the operative provisions, sale terms, preliminary official statement, bond purchase agreements, related bond documents, and related actions in connection with the sale and delivery of the New York Liberty Development Corporation, to be referred to as LBC or the issuer, Liberty Revenue Refunding Bonds, Series 1 WTC 2021, secured by the Port Authority Consolidated Bonds, to be referred to as the Series 1 WTC 2021 bonds, to be issued in an amount not to exceed $700 million for the benefit of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, to be referred to as the borrower or the Port Authority. So the borrower has requested that LDC issue the Series 1 WTC 2021 bonds to provide bond proceeds that will be used, together with other available funds, to refund in whole the outstanding New York Liberty Development Corporation Liberty Revenue Bonds, Series 1 WTC 2011, secured by the Port Authority Consolidated Bonds, issued on December 8, 2011. The series to be referred to as the Series 1 WTC 2011 bonds. The proceeds of the Series 1 WTC 2011 bonds were used to purchase the Port Authority's consolidated bonds, or the 2011 consolidated bonds, to pay 1 day of interest expense on the Series 1 WTC 2011 bonds, and to pay the cost of issuing the Series 1 WTC 2011 bonds. The proceeds of the 2011 consolidated bonds financed a portion of the construction and development of the building known as One World Trade Center, or the facility. The Port Authority owns the facility and the site upon which it was constructed. The Port Authority will use the proceeds of the Series 1 WTC 2021 bonds to purchase its consolidated bonds 228th series, or the 2021 consolidated bonds. The Port Authority will use the proceeds of the sale of the 2021 consolidated bonds, together with additional monies, to redeem the 2011 consolidated bonds, which in turn will redeem the Series 1 WTC 2011 bonds. Series 1 WTC 2021 bonds will be issued and secured under the provisions of the Financing and Trust Agreement, to be referred to as the Financing Agreement, among the issuer, the Port Authority, and the Bank of New York Mellon as trustee. The Series 1 WTC 2021 bonds are special limited revenue obligations of the issuer. The Series 1 WTC 2021 bond principal and interest are payable solely from monies deposited in the bond fund, constituting payments with respect to the 2021 consolidated bonds held under the financing agreement. The 2021 consolidated bonds are direct and general obligations of the Port Authority, pledging the full faith and credit of the Port Authority for the payment of principal thereof and interest thereon. 2021 consolidated bonds are secured equally and ratably with all other consolidated bonds issued by the Port Authority by a pledge of net revenues of all existing Port Authority facilities and any additional facilities which may hereafter be financed or refinanced in whole or in part through the medium of consolidated bonds, the General Reserve Fund of the Port Authority equally with other obligations of the Port Authority secured by the General Reserve Fund, and the Consolidated Bond Reserve Fund established in connection with the 2021 consolidated bonds. As part of the transaction, the issuer also will enter into 2 bond purchase agreements with the borrower and certain underwriters for the initial underwriting of the Series 2021 bonds. One agreement with the borrower with respect to the purchase of the 2021 consolidated bonds, and the other with certain underwriters for the initial underwriting of the Series 1 WTC 2021 bonds, together to be referred to as the bond purchase agreements. The issuer is being asked to delegate authority to its officers to approve the maturities, prices, yields, and other terms of the Series 1 WTC 2021 bonds, which are expected to price and close in December 2021. In accordance with the attached resolution, you are hereby requested to 1. Approve the terms and authorize the sale of the Series 1 WTC 2021 bonds. 2. Approve the form and content of the preliminary official statement, the financing agreement, the bond purchase agreements, and various other bond documents connected with the issuance, sale, and delivery of the Series 1 WTC 2021 bonds. And 3. Authorize certain officers and employees of the issuer to take all actions deemed necessary to accomplish the final issuance, sale, and delivery of the Series 1 WTC 2021 bonds. Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, I'd like to remind everyone to state your name before speaking. Are there any questions or comments from the directors with regard to this item presented by Matthew? We don't have any comments from the public regarding this item, so I'll entertain a motion for approval of the item.
Mehul, so moved.
Thanks, Mehul. Is there a second?
Kathleen, second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you all. The motion carries. I now ask Miyoko Okubo to present the next item on today's agenda, requesting authorization for the corporation to, among other things, appoint underwriters and financial advisors and to perform certain actions in connection with the 7 World Trade Center projects bond refunding. Miyoko, when you are ready, please begin.
Good afternoon, and thank you. The New York Liberty Development Corporation, which I will refer to as the corporation, has been requested by 7 World Trade Center 2 LLC, the company, to issue approximately $500 million aggregate principal amount of New York Liberty Development Corporation tax-exempt Liberty Revenue Refunding Bonds, Series 2022A, the green bonds, the tax-exempt bonds, and approximately $25 million aggregate principal amount of New York Liberty Development Corporation taxable Liberty Revenue Refunding Bonds, Series 22B green bonds, taxable bonds, and together with the tax-exempt bonds, the bonds. Proceeds of the tax-exempt bonds will be used to redeem and defease the outstanding New York Liberty Development Corporation Liberty Revenue Bonds Series 2012, issued on April 5th, 2012, the 2012 bonds. Proceeds of the taxable bonds will be used to, 1, pay the portion of the cost of redeeming and defeasing the outstanding 2012 bonds that cannot be financed with the proceeds of the tax-exempt bonds, and 2, fund cost of issuance of the bonds. Today, we ask that the directors authorize the following actions, which I will discuss in further detail in relation to this bond issuance. Selection of the senior managing underwriter and additional underwriters, the appointment of financial advisors if utilized, the holding of a public TIFRA hearing, and the preparation of documents in connection with the bond. Selection of underwriters. Goldman Sachs & Co. LLC has been selected as the senior managing underwriter for the bonds. Goldman is on the corporation's pre-qualified list of underwriters that was created after an RFP process by Empire State Development, or ESD, and adopted by ESD on February 20th, 2020. The company selected Goldman for its extensive experience in all aspects of municipal finance, especially as an underwriter of other corporation and ESD bond issuances, and its response and rating in the pre-qualification process. The corporation, in consultation with the company, will have the option to select other underwriters from the corporation's pre-qualified list of underwriters. Selection of financial advisor. The corporation also may select a financial advisor from its pre-qualified list of financial advisors that was created after an RFP process by ESD and adopted by ESD on February 20th, 2020. Financial advisor may be selected based on its extensive experience in all aspects of municipal finance, particularly real estate financing. Hourly rate proposal subject to a cap of $250,000. Extensive experience as a financial advisor on other bond issuances, and responses and ratings in the pre-qualification process. The selected financial advisor will be paid by the company pursuant to a pre-financing agreement. Federal tax law requirements. Federal tax law, specifically the Tax Equity and Fiscal Responsibility Act, commonly referred to as TEFRA, requires a hearing prior to the issuance of the qualified private activity bonds in certain circumstances. The corporation has been requested to act as the issuer of qualified private activity bonds for the project. Consequently, a TEFRA hearing may be required. Applicable notice period for the TEFRA hearing is 7 days. TEFRA also requires that, following the TEFRA hearing, the applicable elected representative of the issuer of qualified private activity bonds, in this case the governor, approves the bond transaction. Documents. It is intended that the tax-exempt bonds will be used to redeem and defease the outstanding 2012 bonds, and the taxable bonds will be used to pay the portion of the cost of redeeming and defeasing the outstanding 2012 bonds that cannot be financed with proceeds of the tax-exempt bonds, and to fund cost of issuance of the bonds. Therefore, the related documents must be drafted and approved for the issuance of the bonds expeditiously. An additional LDC board meeting will be held so that the board of directors can approve the formal final bond documents. In conclusion, staff asks that the directors authorize the selection of Goldman as the senior managing underwriter of the bonds, and the ability to appoint additional underwriters. Appointment of financial advisors if utilized. Corporation to take actions related to a holding of TEFRA hearing, and the preparation of the documents in connection with the bonds. Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thanks, Miyoko. Are there any questions or comments from directors regarding this item, appointment of underwriters and financial advisors regarding 7 World Trade Center? We have no comments from the public with regard to this item. I'll entertain a motion for approval of this item.
Kathleen, I'll make a motion to move.
Thank you.
And
Is there a
Mehul.
second?
Yep, Mehul will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. The motion carries. Miyoko's up again and will present the next 3 items on the agenda, which relate to the procurement of legal services in connection with the 7 World Trade Center project's bond refunding. Unless someone objects, I'll ask the directors to please hold their votes until Miyoko has presented all 3 items. Miyoko, when you're ready.
Thank you. We also ask the directors to authorize the corporation to enter into legal services contracts for bond and disclosure counsel in connection with the issuance of the bonds for the 7 World Trade Center project that I previously described. The bond counsel is needed to ensure the corporation's compliance with the federal tax law requirements for an opinion from bond counsel on tax-exempt bonds and to ensure compliance with applicable securities laws and market practices. It is recommended that Catton Newton Rosenman LLP and Hardwick Law Firm LLC serve as co-bond counsel on this transaction. Both law firms were selected from corporation's pre-qualified counsel list. Disclosure counsel is also needed to ensure the corporation's compliance with disclosure requirements for the issuers of tax-exempt bonds under federal securities laws and market practices. It is recommended that Parman and Miranda LLC serve as disclosure counsel on this transaction. Parman, a certified MWB firm, was selected from the corporation's pre-qualified counsel list as having bond financing expertise and experience working on a variety of transactions. The appointments of these law firms will represent an equitable distribution of work among the corporation's rotating slate of senior and junior tier bond law firms and MWB law firms to handle the corporation's debt in terms of size, number of transactions, fees received, and length of time since their last engagement with the corporation, contract amount, and funding source. Contracts will be funded in their entirety by the company on or about the bond closing, as agreed upon by the corporation and the company in a pre-financing agreement. Counsels will work at a small discount from their typical hourly billing rate. Counsels will agree that the corporation will not be obligated to pay any amount for services described, except to the extent, if any, that the corporation receives funds from the company for that purpose. Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments from the directors regarding any of these items? Okay, we do not have any comments from the public with regard to these items. Is there a motion to approve all the items?
This is Mehul, so moved.
Is there a second?
Kathleen, second.
Thank you all. Any opposed? Sorry, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Yoko, thank you for doing all the heavy lifting in this meeting, and the motion carries. There being no further business, may I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. Kathleen?
Thanks, everyone, for your participation. Have a great rest of the day.
Thanks.
Thank you. You too.